Hello, curious people. Ever get curious about who you are when you're curious? Welcome to the Discovering Curiosity series, where we're going to dive deeper into the science of curiosity in order to develop a deeper understanding of curiosity so that you can start using curiosity based thinking to get more out of your own curiosity and more satisfaction out of what you do. So, today's question about what kind of curious are you comes from this, approach to understanding curiosity I want to share with you, where rather than just giving you definitions or telling you what curiosity is, I thought we'd kind of unpack some of the science and the research that exists out there and then see how it applies to you directly. So today's question actually comes from a piece I highly recommend by, I don't know, for my research, probably the leader in scientific research and curiosity, Todd B. Kashdan. And the title of the article, published in the Journal of Research and Personality, is called The Five-Dimensional Curiosity Scale, capturing the bandwidth of curiosity and identifying four unique subgroups of curious people. And what was really fascinating about this paper was a couple things. One is that instead of just giving, this sentence long, standard definition of curiosity, it encourages you to understand, or, continue our understanding of curiosity through a five-dimensional scale, or understanding that curiosity really is kind of made up of five different components. And then across those components that we all individually develop some sort of personality or some sort of type. In other words, that when we get curious about different things, we both engage in our curiosity across five different dimensions, but we also exhibit different personality types. So we can get curious in different ways and become kind of different curious people, if that makes sense. And these I found are really helpful in not only explaining curiosity and understanding it to others, but also designing actions and processes to, again, get the most out of it. Because the idea isn't that this isn't a competitive kind of scale. And in honesty, we all exhibit all of this, right? We're a collection of these different dimensions and these different personality types. And maybe the real secret is, how do we put this in proper balance? Or for different, needs or purposes, how can we kind of turn the dials on our curiosity so we can start gauging our own curiosity ahead of time before there's something to do, right? So that we know we're not just using our curiosity, but we're using the right type, we're looking at it in the right way, and we've got the right mindset or personality set to approach those tasks, that learning, or whatever it is you need to do. And as complicated as some of that may sound, or these research papers and science stuff may sound, one of the things that I find very encouraging is that it's pretty straightforward when you break it down. And I'll be sure to share in the links or below links to the research, but also just kind of a PDF on a summary that I wrote up. If you kind of want to get right through it and focus in on these. I wrote up a little summary on the different dimensions and personality types if you want to do further thinking or exploring or use these in some sort of valuable way. But just as an overview, the five different dimensions of curiosity is, first of all, joyous exploration, right? That's the gold standard. That's what we all want, yeah? And this joyous exploration can be thought of as like enthusiastic engagement, this kind of tenacious attitude and open to new experiences, right? The next dimension is called deprivation sensitivity. That may sound a little like, what's that mean? But people who exhibit this type of curiosity, they have an embrace, they embrace, or they're open to like the abstract, or they like the challenge of complex ideas, yeah? And they're driven by this kind of this need to close gaps in information. And sometimes, though, it's interesting, this deprivation sensitivity, those are some of the positives, but sometimes it can drive people to avoidance or find ways out of things, right? The next dimension, the third dimension, is stress tolerance. And this is, I like to joke around this, like they're ambiguity adaptive. So they have less doubt about things, even if it's something unknown or uncertain. They're kind of a cliche way to put it might be they're comfortable being uncomfortable. The people, or whenever, not just people, but we all do this to some degree, right? Whenever we exhibit this stress tolerance dimension of curiosity, it's when we're like, oh, I don't care if I don't know, or I don't care if I'm going someplace I've never been before. I'm cool, or I'm open to what might happen. The fourth dimension is called social curiosity. And it's interesting because this is the listeners and the wonderers. The social curious is when you really have a desire to know what other people are thinking or doing. And even though it's got social in the word, a lot of this is more introverted behavior. So a lot of times, like a social curious person, or when you're exhibiting social curiosity, a lot of times you want to be the observer over the participant, even, right? And again, we all do this in different degrees and in different situations. It's just fascinating, these different dimensions at play. And the last one, either the funnest or most terrifying, maybe depending on where you sit on this, but is the thrill seeking. And this is where it's kind of the risk is the reward, right? This is when a lot of times, just as the social curious tend to be more introverted people or behaviors, the thrill seeking, this is more the extrovert. This is they're willing to risk. It could be financial risk, social risk. It could be any types, right? And not only are they willing to risk, and there's a reward in that risk, but they actually thrive on social attention. Yeah. So sometimes the outcome of the risk isn't as much, but this curiosity is, I wonder if people will pay attention to this, right? So there's this interesting way to look at curiosity through the thrill seeking, the social curiosity, stress tolerance, deprivation sensitivity, or joyous exploration. And what I hope this can be valuable to you is that you can start again thinking, on your own, becoming more cognizant of your own curiosity, becoming more aware. So like when you feel yourself being curious, or you feel yourself the need to be curious, you can have this understanding of these dimensions. And again, like knobs or gauges on a control panel, you can go in to exploit them or activate them to get the most out of your curiosity. Because remember, curiosity is just that catalyst for better things later on. And then lastly, those are the 5 dimensions, but it's also really interesting to consider how those 5 dimensions play with the 4 personality types. So what the study found is that, all right, we've got these 5 dimensions, but I believe this was even, they didn't even anticipate this. This is just serendipitous. They discovered that while we have these 5 different dimensions, the people they were studying showed 4 very distinct personality types. And again, I'm going to share what these are with you because it's fascinating, because we all share these. And I think if you reflect on your own curiosity and your own thinking and your own actions, you'll identify how you exhibit, again, some balance of all 4 personality types, depending on the situation or depending on the circumstances. And hopefully being more aware of this, you can kind of tap into that and again, exploit or recalibrate so you can get the most of what you're doing. And the first personality type, this is where you want to be, right? Is the fascinated. And by the fascinated, it's basically you're curious all the time, or you're completely on, you're engaged, you want to know what's next. And not only do you want to know what's next, you're also cool and comfortable not knowing what's next. But then whatever comes next, no matter what it is, good, bad, or other, you're enthusiastic and engaged with it in a way that's going to be positive, that you can do something with it, and that becomes a reward in itself. The next is a problem solver, and this is where it's a little lower than the fascinated on the test, right? Or you exhibit just a little lower on the overall curiosity. Fascinated is like complete, like 10 out of 10 on curiosity on all quadrants, right? The problem solver is a little lower, but they specifically have, but they're very high still on that kind of that closing the gaps, that complex thinking, that like, hey, when I get curious whenever I see something needs to be done kind of thing, right? And then the empathizer, this is interesting too, that again, there may be things that they avoid, that they're not completely curious about everything, anytime, anywhere, but they show a very high aptitude or interest in, or even reward in learning about others, or wondering about others, or putting themselves in other situations. So they get this empathizer personality. And then the last is the avoider, and everything's pretty much positive out of all these dimensions and personality types, except for this one. So we get there. So you kind of want to avoid the avoider, and the avoid it, but keep in mind, we all exhibit this to some degree, and in some situations, we may max out at avoiding, right? But the idea is to become more aware of it, so that we can find ways to approach it, so we have an avoider curiosity profile or personality less, as less often as possible. Because the idea is the description of the avoider is somebody who, when they see something that's new or uncertain, rather than wanting to discover what it is, they want to run away or kind of hide. And it becomes, I think I've described it before, as this constant state of flight, right? You've heard of the fight or flight kind of mechanism. And what it does is one, it's hard to be on the run all the time, right? So instead what happens, it makes you more sheltered, both, sometimes geographically and physically, but especially with your thoughts. You become very beholden to what you thought is what you're always going to think, and you're never going to change and everything else. And it becomes, you're not going to change, but you're not even an explorer, even open to change. So anything that could even just be a mere suggestion, it could even be positive, right? You end up avoiding. So the trick out of all of these is to identify where you are, to use that to your advantage, but then also to see if you find yourself falling into this avoider personality in any situations, that you can start designing strategies and approaches to kind of start building you out of it. And again, there's many ways to do that, but curiosity-based thinking is one of several, and I'm happy to share those with you here, both on the Discovering Curiosity series and other offerings and videos we'll have coming out here with What If Curiosity and curiosity-based thinking. So thanks again for getting curious with me on the 5 dimensions of curiosity and the 4 personality types, and really curious. In the comments or elsewhere, contact me. What kind of curious are you? Or what situations are you this curious, and what situations do you think you're that curious? And you know what? It's a growing field. These are 5 dimensions, and these are 4 personality types. What if we're missing some? Are there any that you would like to add or change, or what do you think about looking at curiosity in this way from a dimensional scale? So again, thanks again. Stay curious, and until next time.